Colin Alexander is a senior lecturer in political communications at Nottingham Trent University. Glad to have you with us, Colin. So, does the fact that the North Korean leader has actually made a public admission that there's a food shortage tell us how serious this issue is?
Yes, I think that's a pretty good indication of what's happening. I mean, as your report says, though, I don't think that we're quite at the stage of the mid-90s where, depending on the statistics that you read, between maybe 2 and 4 million people died, and certainly there was a significant hardship. I don't think that we're quite there yet. However, it's important to stress that if we look at the literature on famine itself, we're not so much talking about North Korea. The reasons for why famine events happen, you have to go back 1 or 2 years into the past to understand, political decision making around grain stores and other decisions around sort of food security matters more generally.
So is this a crisis of his own making? He's been concentrating so much on his nuclear program that he's taken his eye off the ball when it comes to agriculture.
Well, I mean, I appreciate that this is an authoritarian regime, but there are ministers in charge of these things, and there is a small civil service. I mean, ultimately, famines can happen for several reasons, and usually the climate is only a part of that. So I would suggest that this is possibly about incompetence, as you're kind of alluding to here. The reasons why there has been incompetence of this nature remain to be seen. But I mean, ultimately, I think the point to make here is that there isn't much room, or there isn't much margin for error in North Korea. We still have mainly sort of, let's call it, traditional ways of doing farming. There's not much machinery. A lot of it's with basic tools and even the use of animals in order to sort of pull plows, etc. So there isn't this kind of large agricultural sector, industrial sector, which is able to produce extensive amounts of foodstuffs to be stored for harsher times. And ultimately, if you go to Asia, last summer we see extensive drought, we see very, very high temperatures. And ultimately, North Korea is not immune from this. And ultimately, I think North Korea is much more exposed to this than perhaps neighbouring South Korea, China, Japan, etc.
We know Kim has called for a radical change in agricultural production. So what can we expect? What kind of radical changes? I mean, is he going to look at things like climate change, scientific progress? What do you think he could do?
Well, I mean, as your report was kind of alluding to here, one of the main issues here is that North Korea spends 20 to 30% of its GDP on its nuclear weapons program and on defense issues, military issues. So it's a pretty poor country, and resources will have to be diverted from elsewhere if it wants to make those investments. It obviously has China as a main ally, but China was exposed to a significant climate hardship as well last year, and we are beginning to see some of those issues coming to fruition there as well. And the final thing to say is that this is a kind of global issue, is that North Korea has to buy petrol, gas, etc. on the international market, and these things are going up in price for all of us, regardless of where you are. And in a poor country like North Korea, they find themselves falling further down the pecking order, and their purchasing power is reduced. And that ultimately has to be taken into consideration as well.
Great to speak with you, Colin. Thank you. Colin Alexander there.